Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Engineered Impact Podcast. So, this week I've been sharing kind of my journey from how I went from blindly dumping money into a 401k plan, just like everybody else that I worked with, and hoping and praying that it would all work out someday, to learning that it was actually possible to become financially free much faster and much more securely by modeling those who'd already achieved what I was trying to achieve, who were already financially free. So yesterday I shared that after walking away from my company's 401k plan and deciding that I wasn't willing to hope and pray for 40 years that this plan was going to work out. I spent several years learning and researching and experimenting and eventually figuring out a strategy that would allow me to use a specially structured life insurance policy that would provide consistent 4 to 5% growth every single year. And that growth was insulated from the ups and downs of the stock or bond markets, right? Now, I'm not talking average growth rates like your financial advisor has to use to make the stock market look like it's a reliable way to generate wealth. I'm talking about 4 to 5% every year that you can actually take to the bank. Now, this strategy is honestly one of the only ways that I've found to actually receive the benefits of compound interest, right? If you sit down with your financial advisor, he's going to show you this, 8 to 12% growth curve that you're supposedly going to get in the stock market. But it doesn't actually happen that way because markets don't actually work that way, right? They go up, they go down, and every time they go down, it interrupts that compounding and shifts the curve so that you don't actually realize the compound interest that you're supposed to get. We'll talk about this more another time, but the bottom line, what I want you to take away right now is it's actually very, very difficult to achieve compound interest inside a stock market account, okay? Or a strategy that's based on markets that fluctuate, okay? So second, in addition to 4 to 5% reliable growth, my policy would give me complete liquidity, complete access to my money anytime in any amount without having to raise my hand and ask my employer, ask permission from the IRS like I'm a kid, if I can please have some of my money back, right? Like you got to do with a qualified retirement plan. I could get my money anytime. Now I pay the premiums into this policy with after-tax dollars, so I'm paying the taxes up front. But once I do that, once the dollars go into the policy, I will never have to pay taxes on those dollars again. Okay, not on the principal that I put in, not on the growth. Okay. Now, we can do that because we follow some very strict guidelines that the IRS has set, right? We'll go into those another time as well, but the bottom line is no taxes, right? So unlike a 401k where I'm going to get taxed at the highest rates on every dollar that I take out, including the growth, the capital gains, no taxes here, right? That's huge. Taxes are an enormous eroder of your wealth, okay? Next, security and privacy. Okay, these policies are put in place with literally the most secure financial institutions on the planet, and it's a private contract, right? Which also gives the benefit that in most cases it's protected even from lawsuits. Okay, so all these benefits are pretty incredible, right? Pretty much everything that I found that was lacking or that was way too risky for me to keep investing in a 401k, I found the opposite here, right? But the icing on the cake to all of this was I figured out that I can actually use my policy as collateral to take loans from the insurance company, okay? And then I could use those funds to buy other investments and put the same dollars essentially to work in two different places, right? So I put dollars into my policy. They're going to stay there. Those never come out. Those are going to continue to earn 4 to 5%. But because those dollars are sitting there, the insurance company is willing to use my policy as collateral and loan me their money that I can now go invest somewhere else, right? So I get to earn returns on my dollars in my policy and returns on the insurance company's money, right? Using my dollars as collateral. That is where the magic really starts to come into play in this strategy, okay? So my wife and I looked at this, and this was not an overnight thing, right? I spent, like I said, 2 years off and on researching this, and then once I decided to really look into it, it took me several months, a lot of meetings with agents, till I was comfortable with this strategy. But as we learned these, as we got comfortable with it, as we talked about structuring a policy, and we finally pulled the trigger, we're like, all right, this is going to be the thing, right? This is how we're going to achieve financial freedom. We're going to do it fast. This is what wealthy people do, right? So we came up with a plan. So our plan was every 2 weeks, right? Our savings was going to go in this policy, okay? Then when we had enough, and it was going to take us a while to get there, but when we had enough, we were going to take a policy loan from the insurance company, and we chose to use those dollars to invest in real estate. Okay, so the idea was we save money in our policy. Once we have enough collateral in there, we would take a loan from the insurance company, and we use that loan as a down payment on a piece of property. Okay, so once we do that, we're going to buy a piece of property. That property is going to generate cash flow every month, right? So we would then take that cash flow and use that money to make payments back to the insurance company on the policy loan, right? And as we do that, every dollar we pay back becomes available to borrow again. Okay. So eventually, as we continue to save, as we continue to take this real estate cash flow and pay back the policy loan, again, eventually we're going to have enough to take a second loan, right? We'll have enough saved up for a second down payment. We'll go out, we'll buy a second piece of property. Now I'm saving every month from what I'm doing at work, and I've got cash flow from property one paying back my policy loan. Now I've got additional cash flow from property two. Well, now I can pay it back twice as fast, right? So there's a cycle that starts to happen, right? I save, we buy a property, we pay off the loan, we do it again. And every time we add a property, that cycle time reduces, right? We can save up another down payment a little bit faster because there's now another stream of income every single time that's building up that capital, okay? So as we formulated this plan, we worked with our mentor, we figured out that it would take us somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 properties to be able to completely replace our income with cash flow from our investments. Okay, now it sounded like a lot, and it is a lot, but we sat down, we put a plan together that we'd be able to do this in 10 years, right? Starting out, we needed to buy 2 properties a year. We were going to be able to do this in 10 years, right? Which to me sounded a heck of a lot better than 30 or 40 years. Saving in a 401k, having to work that whole time, and then hoping, praying again, that there was enough in that 401k that I could actually retire when it was all over, right? That I wasn't going to have to go be a greeter at Walmart when I was done being an engineer. So, had a strategy, we had a plan. Now all we had to do was execute, right? Now, as you can imagine, a bold plan like this was bound to run into a few snags, and ours did, and it did pretty quickly. So I'll share more about that tomorrow, but I hope that this is starting to open your mind a little bit to the possibility that there are alternatives out there to what you've always been told you have to do with your money. I hope you're starting to ask yourself bigger questions that maybe you've never dared to ask, like, do you really have to stay sitting at that desk for 30 or 40 years in order to earn a retirement? Or do you really have to leave your money in the stock market and take more risk than you're comfortable with to generate any kind of reasonable rate of return, right? Again, right now, people have just lost a huge chunk of their retirement savings. So I hope a lot of you are asking this question, right? Does it have to be that way? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. You don't have to leave your money exposed to that kind of risk where you have no control, okay? There are better alternatives. So start thinking about that, right? You don't have to do what I'm doing. I think this is the best strategy, and I've looked a lot. But just recognize there are alternatives, right? There are people out there that are building wealth right now, today. There are people that did not lose 30% of their retirement savings. I did not lose a penny, honestly. There are better ways out there, okay? And as we continue to talk about this, I hope that you will dare to ask those questions of yourself. I hope you will dare to start to explore, to learn, and be willing to invest in yourself, invest in your own education, learn to use the tools and the strategies that those who have achieved what you want are using, right? Again, it's just a matter of finding someone that's already got what you want and modeling what they did, right? So that's all for today. Be sure to tune in for the next episode where I will share how my brilliant plan very quickly started to unravel. Until then, make it a great day.